On failed races, we've talked about wacky sports cars and unreliable rally cars, but there's sometimes when an entire category of motorsport fails. There was the first iteration of the World Touring Car Championship, which failed due to FISA internal politics involving Bernie Ecclestone as a prime example of this. Another example of a failed motorsport is A1GP. A1GP was very much like Formula 2 today, although it was actually a competitor to the already existing GP2 series. Powered by 550 horsepower V8 engines, the A1GP car had pace between that of a Formula 3 car and a GP2 car. But it wasn't the car that was strange. The A1GP was known as the World Cup of Motorsport, as the drivers didn't represent traditional racing teams. Rather, they represented their countries. This led to many memorable moments throughout the sport's brief history.
Pakistan! Oh, India's hit Pakistan! India has hit Pakistan! Pakistan is off! Would you believe it?
But, with the World Cup of Motorsport becoming a thing, what about if there was a UEFA Champions League of motorsports? It's the question that literally nobody asked, but somebody decided to answer it anyway. This is the story of the Super League formula. But if a driver represented a football team in one round, and a different driver represented the same team in the next round, they would both score points to the same team. However, two drivers could not score points for the same football team in the same round. The commentators would also never refer to the drivers by their names, only naming the football team they represent. Confused yet? I certainly am. But that's not the end of the championship's weirdness. The race format was also equally weird. Following with a football theme, qualifying was in a format consisting of group stages and knockout stages. The fastest 4 cars from each stage would then progress to the quarterfinals. During the quarterfinals, each car would face off against one competitor, with the slower of the two being eliminated until there were only 2 cars left. Then there would be the pole shootouts between the top 2 cars. This would set the grid for race 1. There would then be a rather conventional 2-race format following the bizarre qualifying format, with a second race having a reverse grid. But the top 5 drivers across both races would then be entered into a dash for the cash race, which lasted 5 laps and had a €100,000 prize for whoever wins. The whole thing is formatted like some sort of unsuccessful reality TV show. I'm surprised they don't have a part where they dump the drivers in slime. The cars used a chassis designed by Panos. The car, called the DP09, was based on the Panos DP01, which was used in the 2007 Champ Car season. Although, unlike the 720 horsepower turbo V8 that powered the Champ cars, the Super League Formula cars were powered by a 4.2 litre, naturally aspirated V12 producing 750 horsepower. You're probably wondering what that sounded like. It sounded like this.
At Le Mans when he retired while leading a week ago. He's in second place, he's chasing this man, Julien Jousse, who drives for AS Roma.
6/10 quicker on the last lap from Montagny. We're on board with AS Roma again. Second, third, fourth. Back on the brakes. You can see the little green dot on the right of your screen. There is the throttle and there's also the G-force. When they hit the brakes at the end of the straight, the G-force goes up to 4.1, 4.2 Gs. Up the hill, the G-force up to 3 Gs on the right side.
This big V12 certainly wasn't light. The car weighed 750 kilograms, giving it a 1-to-1 power to weight ratio. This engine was in fact the same engine that was used as the auxiliary power unit of the Bloodhound SSC land speed record car, driving the pumps and hydraulic systems used to power the rocket and jet engines. The big power didn't translate to big speed. In 2008, the cars were around 2 seconds per lap slower than a 2007 GP2 car around the Nürburgring GP circuit. So, the cars were exciting, but how did the first race go? Beijing Guoan, represented by Davide Rigon, took pole position and then went on to win the first race by 2.5 seconds. The second race was won by Borja Garcia, representing Sevilla FC. The opening round did not feature the Dash for the Cash, which was only brought in for 2009. Overall, the racing was quite well received, with the series being known for solid battles and overtakes. It also had some highly rated drivers such as Robert Dornbos, Davide Rigon, Antonio Pizzonio, Alessandro Pierguidi, and even for a couple of rounds in 2009, Scott Mansell from Driver 69, who's probably about to explain to these marshals what trail braking is after crashing at turn 1, which would be quite unsurprising since he's made a career out of explaining what trail braking is a different way every single day. The remainder of the 2008 season went according to plan for the Super League formula, and in 2009 things got even bigger and better, with the number of competing football teams increasing to 21. But that would be the peak of things. In 2010, 19 teams entered, and in 2011 only 16, with the series folding after just 2 rounds. But what saw such an intriguing series ultimately fail? Part of it was down to the format. Both the championship format involving football teams and the race weekend format, which was entirely insane and convoluted. The bizarre football link makes it unclear exactly who the target audience is. Yes, there are plenty of football fans who like racing and vice versa, but did it really have anything to do with football besides the team names? It wasn't going to bring in any new audiences. Perhaps that's why the football team stopped financially backing the series, as they weren't gaining any tangible benefits from it. Then there's the state of motorsports in the late 2000s. At the time, it seemed that every man and his dog had their own second-tier open-wheel racing series. Just a year prior to the founding of Super League Formula, another second-tier open-wheel championship, Champ Car, folded. It was the previous year's Champ Car which would be used as the basis for the Super League Formula car, the Panos DP09. But it wasn't just Champ Car. There were plenty of other second-tier open-wheel racing series at the time. There was the main GP2 series, then there was the Formula 3000 European Series, IndyCar, World Series by Renault, AutoGP Series, and Formula Acceleration 1, which is the most stupid name for a championship ever. Viewers had many second-tier open-wheel racing series to choose from in the late 2000s, and whilst V12 engines, ungrooved slicks and 2-metre wide cars were a selling point for the Super League formula, the convoluted championship format made it less desirable. Then there's the selling points of the competition. GP2 was the support series for Formula 1 and was convenient to watch thanks to being just before an F1 race. IndyCar had its long history bringing prestige to the championship. Besides having a cool engine, Super League Formula didn't really bring anything to the table compared to all of the other second-tier open-wheel championships at the time. And as a result, the championship folded. Super League Formula. The cars were good, the rest was shit.